Welcome to this explainer. Okay, if you're a student right now, I want you to close your eyes for just a second. Picture a scene straight out of a dark, beautifully illustrated graphic novel. Imagine a shadowy, candlelit library. Right at the center sits a solitary sage, surrounded by towering, dusty bookshelves. Suddenly, the deep silence is broken. The sage hears a low, grinding rhythm echoing from the corridor. It's stone scraping against stone. Patient, incredibly heavy, and completely unhurried. Honestly, it's a sound that feels almost exactly like the dread you might feel on a Sunday night right before midterms.
Let's dive right into this. The figure filling that dark doorway, it's none other than Sisyphus. He's leaning against this enormous boulder that seems to just absorb the very light of the room. He looks at the sage and says, with a weary but patient heaviness, "I heard you discussing me. I thought I would save you the trouble of imagining the rest." We all know the myth of Sisyphus, right? The guy condemned by the gods to roll a massive boulder up a mountain, only to watch it roll right back down, for eternity. But today, we aren't just looking at ancient history. We're looking at that overwhelming, heavy burden he's carrying, because it is the exact same feeling of relentless, suffocating stress that so many of you carry every single day in your academic lives.
And this perfectly illustrates our core focus today. On one side of the fable, we have Sisyphus and his giant, unyielding boulder. On the other side, the modern student. Your boulder isn't made of granite, it's made of an endless syllabus. It's the relentless cycle of reading assignments, the back-to-back exams, the absolute crushing pressure to maintain a perfect GPA. You push that heavy boulder of coursework all the way to Friday, feeling like you finally reached the summit, only for Monday to arrive and send the stone crashing right back down to the bottom of the hill.
The sheer weight of this burden actually lies in the repetition, 400. Sisyphus tells the sage that you completely misunderstand his punishment if you think the physical stone is the actual point. The gods designed the futility, the absolute endlessness of it to break his spirit. Think about your 400th descent. Or, in your world, your 400th flashcard, your 400th page of incredibly dry textbook reading. A person who hopes the studying will finally just be done is destroyed by the 400th late night just as thoroughly as the first. The academic system, much like the gods of the fable, can often feel like it's designed to grind you down through sheer, maddening repetition.
But when the sage asks Sisyphus what wisdom he actually brings to this dark library, unlike the priests and philosophers who visited before him, Sisyphus gives a beautifully simple answer. He brings repetition. He says his life involves considerably more sweat and considerably less sitting. So the crucial point here is how he defines this. It's not some grand doctrine or a warning. It is simply the fact of doing the same honest thing again and again until the act of doing it stops needing an excuse. He literally strips away all the glamour and finds his grounding in the sheer, unglamorous reality of the work itself.
Listen, Sisyphus didn't reach this Zen-like mindset overnight. He faced temptations to escape, just like we all do. The first trap he describes is what philosophers call the leap. Early on, Sisyphus admits he was tempted to invent a hidden purpose for his torture. He wanted to believe a god was secretly watching and would magically reward his labor, or that one morning the summit would finally, magically, hold the stone. The leap is that dangerous temptation to resolve your current suffering by inventing a magical future ending that the evidence just doesn't support.
So how does that apply to you? Well, think about it. Sisyphus waiting for the gods is exactly like the stressed student waiting for graduation, or even just the end of the semester. How many times have you told yourself, "I'll finally be happy when finals are over," or "my life will actually start once I get this degree"? Sisyphus calls this a meaning borrowed against a future that never arrives. And the glaring problem with a loan against the future is that every single time the mountain fails to honor it, every time a new semester starts or a new challenge pops up, the borrowed meaning collapses, and you are left completely emotionally and mentally bankrupt.
But there is a second false door, and Sisyphus admits this one pulled at him even harder. We call it the collapse. This is that devastating moment standing at the base of the mountain, looking at the stone that has rolled back down for the 1000th time, and deciding that since no grand meaning waits at the top, the labor just isn't worth continuing. For the modern student, this is the deep, heavy despair of absolute burnout. It's the temptation to just drop out, to let the assignments pile up at the bottom of the hill, to ghost your classes, and simply give up because the futility just feels way too heavy to bear.
And here's where the philosophy gets incredibly sharp. Sisyphus realizes that both of these exits, the leap and the collapse, are actually the exact same trap. They are an identical refusal. The leap pretends the mountain isn't silent by inventing fake hope. The collapse hears the silence and decides life is unlivable. Both treat the daily grind as a problem that has to be solved before you can finally start living. Most importantly, both are a desperate refusal to stay in the present moment and keep the difficulty company. They are both just ways of running away from the work that is right in front of you.
So what did Sisyphus actually do? He shifted his entire mindset. He tells the sage, the peace did not arrive until I stopped expecting the labor to end differently than it always ended. He stopped weeping at the base. He stopped raging at the summit. He simply started attending to the walk itself. And this wasn't resignation. Resignation is waiting for permission to stop suffering. Sisyphus didn't wait for permission. He just stopped waiting altogether. He stopped demanding the mountain change, and instead, he completely changed his relationship to the repetition.
Now, I want to speak directly to you, the student who feels completely buried right now. Let's get practical. Here's how you actually apply Sisyphus's wisdom to inhabit your academic difficulty. Step 1. Stop checking the clock. Stop waiting for the final grade or the end of the semester to grant you permission to feel okay. Step 2. Focus strictly on the single page, the single paragraph, or the single line of code right in front of you. And Step 3. Allow the honest repetition of studying to be sufficient on its own. Don't demand that your study session give you some kind of spiritual awakening. Just let the honest work be enough for the hour.
Because here is the hard truth of it all. The mountain of your coursework is not going to change. The stone of your academic responsibilities is not going to magically lighten up. But by holding the tension, by letting your desire for meaning and the mountain's difficult silence remain exactly as loud as they are, without trying to fix them, you actually stop being destroyed by the grind. You carry the tension rather than constantly expecting a cure. You simply keep the difficulty company.
And the result of doing this? Sisyphus describes it as a strange and durable peace that owes nothing to the mountain's cooperation. Think about how incredibly freeing that is. If your peace doesn't require the mountain to cooperate, it means you no longer require the university, your professors, or your GPA to validate your worth. The peace grows entirely within you. It is cultivated in the plain, repeated, unrewarded act of simply continuing to push. You sleep more easily because you've stopped waiting for a cosmic reward that was never actually promised in the first place.
As our graphic novel fable comes to its climax, Sisyphus realizes it's time to head back. The mountain doesn't wait, it just continues being there. He shoulders his massive boulder without any visible strain. Kind of the way you carry a burden you finally stop comparing to everyone else's. He steps back out of the library, into the dark corridor. The sage is left alone with his flickering candle, listening to the grinding rhythm of the stone receding into the dark. And the sage notices something profound. The sound of that relentless, returning stone has begun to keep the exact same time as his own patient heart.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought to carry into your very next study session. What happens if you stop waiting for the semester to end and simply inhabit the pushing? What if you stopped viewing your academic grind as an agonizing punishment and instead saw it as your own quiet, steady path to a durable peace? The stone is waiting for you out there, but how you push it? Well, that's entirely up to you.